Opportunity Zone. I am joined today by my business partner and co-CEO, Mr. Chris Lavin. Today we have a lot to cover. Okay, Freddie and Fannie, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, two biggest. Let's just call them lenders. They buy most of the mortgages in this country. They do most of the commercial loan. They just fired all the top brass, 100%. We need the axe for that part. They took the axe to Fannie and Freddie, 100%. So we're going to be going through that and what the implications are. We're also going to be going through what's happening in the market as a whole. So if you're making potentially moves into investing in real estate of any kind right now, you want to pay attention to today's show. So we're live with you. If you've got questions, comments, use them in the chat. Throw them in the chat. If you're following us on social media, we can still see the comments come through. Type in there, and then we'll make sure that we try to tackle any questions that we can during this one. Chris has a hard stop at the end of this one, so I'm going to jam through a lot of the news pretty fast today, but I think it's worth the wait for you guys to get through this. First thing I'm going to jump into before we get into the news, I want to give a quick history lesson. There was this man named Joseph in the Old Testament of the Bible, and Joseph basically was sold into slavery as a kid. Later in life, he gets an opportunity to become governor of an entire nation, and he becomes governor. And while he was governor, he was tasked with basically preparing for a famine. The nation of Egypt was going into starvation zone, and he had to plant crop and store that crop for 7 years. Now, why was he thrown into that situation? What are the circumstances that led up to it? There's a whole bunch of things. I'm going to wrap that today throughout today's show as we dive into this. But I'll say this, Bill Pulte, even guys like Chris Lavin, are modern day Josephs. They've stepped into situations with a little bit of calamity, and they're finding their way through it. And today, when we talk about Bill Pulte, and we'll talk a little bit about Chris Lavin, you're going to see that shine through. Before we jump into that, Chris, would you mind saying a quick blessing, and then we'll jump in?
Absolutely. Heavenly Father, first and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge who you are and what you mean to me, and I thank you for that. Please bless us as we try to instill some wisdom and some experience into the people who are listening to us. Please bless the people that are listening to us so that they can have a prosperous future and do the next right thing and seek your will for them in their lives today. Ask your name. Amen.
Amen. All right. A lot of people have been asking us, they're like, hey, Nate, this is the opportunity zone. Where is my opportunity? You guys haven't had a deal in a long time. And you're right, 100%. But we have one coming soon. Now, for folks that are on our wait list and folks that are current investors with us, you will get dibs on this property first. This is a beautiful Class A property. We're buying it at a substantial discount. We're literally paying a little less than the seller paid for it, and the seller's done improvements on this property. And this will be coming out very soon. What you want to do if you're not a current investor, but you'd like to look at this opportunity, and if you're not on our wait list yet, you need to get on our wait list. This is on the waterfront. It's gorgeous. The numbers check out. They're like beyond my wildest dreams for a property these days. It's been difficult to get deals out there, but this is one worth the wait. So what you do is you click on.
Wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
Please. All right. So one thing, God love Nate, but this is a beautiful property. This is a Class A property on the waterfront, all the amenities. It's got a provenance like nobody's business, and the numbers check out, like he said. But this is going to be one of those properties that if you don't get involved in, you're going to hate yourself for, because not only is it going to continue to grow, it's just going to take off like a rocket ship. This is managed by a mom and a pop type shop, so they haven't properly managed it. They haven't properly marketed it. And still this thing is at 100% occupancy. This is the property of the quarter. Do not let this one slide by. This is the one. Sorry. I'm excited about this property.
Chris stole my thunder for deal launch day. So deal launch day, you just heard it right there. And we will be releasing numbers and offering memorandum and all that kind of stuff very soon. We just had to make sure that we finish a little bit more of our due diligence. It's checking out. Everything's lining up. I'll be physically on site next week. If you want to come take a tour with us virtually, you can tune into the deal launch that we're going to do for this one. Watch for email on that one. If you want all the financials and you want the info on this one, or you want to potentially get a spot, make sure you join the wait list. The link right now is in the Zoom chat if you're with us here in this room. If you're following us on social media and you want to be added to the wait list, please send us a direct message or post right in the comments right now. Post on this one, deal, 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 and our team will private message you and we'll get you added to the wait list for this deal as well. Okay, Chris, I'm going to jump right into the news and we got to dissect some things. We had a big move just happened. Bill Pulte walked in. You and I reported it here first 2 weeks ago. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they only had 49 out of 2,900 employees that were actually working physically in the office. Well, guess what? Bill Pulte just went in with the axe and he just cut all the top brass, CEO, CFO, all the C-suite gone. Tell us why, number one, as a business, this was done as a business person, and then number two, the ramifications.
Hey, so listen, we all know about government waste and government inefficiencies. This is exactly what he was addressing. So this was a top-down mentality. You know, they said 2,900 employees were in there, but management wasn't there either. So these people are collecting a paycheck, and we don't know what they were doing. At some point, there's going to be some level of accountability, and from a top-down approach, the accountability wasn't there. I am a servant leader. In other words, I will never ask my people to do something I'm not willing to do. And that's the kind of leadership we need here. So I think Pulte did exactly the right thing. He's going to shake this thing up. I hope he takes it to privatization. I'm a little concerned about that either way, but then it would hopefully create a market that where there's more competition so that it's just not two twins doing the exact same thing with slightly different criteria. Great move. I love the gall of this guy.
Yeah, I thought it was bold. Imagine taking the helm of a brand new ship while it's in mid-sail across the ocean and having the courage to fire the captain. He did that. He fired the captain because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. He took charge. He's currently the captain of both of those ships. He appointed himself as president and until they replace him. So he had a lot of courage, and I think it's going to be short-term. Fannie Mae's and Freddie Mac will go through some pains, but long-term, it was the right move. It'll be best for taxpayers. It'll be best for us as individuals in a free market economy too. So that's number one. Now, number two, and this year is going to affect some of you guys, depending on what you plan to do with your investments. I'm going to share screen on this quick little soundbite from Secretary Scott Turner. Remember Scott Turner, this is the man that publicly prayed on the first cabinet meeting.
Love this guy.
And now he's coming out.
You were a part of that effort. Senator Tim Scott obviously kind of kicked it off with President Trump, but you want to expand that exponentially. You see success there.
Yeah, opportunity zones were very impactful. The time that we had the opportunity to lead the opportunity zones, there's 8,764 around our country. 1 million people were lifted out of poverty. Home values went up with rents not going up. People were able to build operating businesses, which created many jobs. People are also able to build a foundation and build new places to live. And so the expansion and the extension of opportunity zones is something I'm very passionate about, working with Senator Tim Scott and other members of Congress and other agencies and the White House. And I believe with this affordable housing crisis, that opportunity zones are a great platform and a great vehicle for us to build affordable housing, build new operating.
So that's our Secretary of HUD, and he's basically saying he's doubling down on his stance on opportunity zones. So they were signature platform during the last Trump administration, and now he's coming out saying, hey, we're going to go hot and heavy on this thing. Chris, I know that you've got maybe some different opinions than mine on opportunity zones, but collectively, what do you think about the direction?
So yes, I do have different opinions, but let me explain those opinions. My opinions are based on the good old boy network abusing the system for profit. Right. So I am for opportunity zones if they're properly utilized to have the impact that they're supposed to have on the communities they're supposed to have impact on. Not like what we have over here in Riviera Beach, where we've got opportunity zones where they're building condos that nobody in the area can live in. You know, you're building condos in an area where the base price is $1 million. How is that an effective use of opportunity zones? I think it's malarkey. If it's properly utilized and we're having a positive impact to lift people out of poverty, giving them a safe place to live, to allow them to flourish, I'm 100% for. But it's always the government being involved in things where it gets messed up. I believe that guys like you and me we're going to do the right thing. If we take advantage of an opportunity zone like this and build a property and actually do what it's supposed to do, I think it will have a huge positive impact. unfortunately, you know, there are times where I'm disappointed in humanity because not everybody does what they're supposed to do.
I think 100%. There's going to always be 10% that work the system, so to speak.
Mhm.
Here's another little tidbit we should add on to this. So this is Scott Turner partnering with the Department of Interior. Now remember, these guys control land. I got to make sure I share the sound button. There we go. Yep. Okay, these guys control land. So now what Scott Turner is doing is he's going over saying, okay, well, we're going to make these opportunity zones. We're going to double down on them. Also, we need
Affordability
land.
crisis. We need more affordable homes in America, about 7 million to be exact. And my friend here oversees the use of our federal land.
That's right. Our federal lands are an incredible asset on America's balance sheet, and we've been discussing how we can efficiently and effectively steward these underutilized areas to solve our nation's affordable housing crisis.
Well, today we're announcing a partnership between the Department of Interior and the Department of Housing and Urban Development that will unlock federal lands for the benefit of all Americans. And here's a glimpse of what this new agreement will do. HUD will work with DOI to assess the housing needs in areas where federal lands may be available yet underutilized, and implement tailored housing programs with guidance from states and localities.
This partnership will identify underutilized federal lands.
So I'm going to kind of skip to the bullet points of this. Essentially, you've got Department of Interior saying, you know what, we're going to unlock federal lands. And HUD slash Secretary Turner, they will be taking a close look, partnering with local leaders on which land becomes available, but they're cutting all the red tape and they're saying, builders, come build affordable housing. We're going to make this easy for you. What do you think, Chris?
First of all, I think that's the worst acting I've seen in a long time, right? So you can tell that those guys are reading from scripts because that was definitely not natural. And by the way, that's how I look when I read from a script. Secondarily, the problem is they're not making more land unless you're in Dubai, right? So they're going to take away from national reserves, you know, protected reserves, in order to do some of this, and that I'm against. Now there is some federal land that you know it's not being done for anything. It's just sitting there doing nothing. I'm okay with that, but to take away wetlands or anything else, you know, the protected areas, I have a real problem with, because again, that once we take that away, it's never going to go back to that. So we got to be real careful about this. I'm for the concept, but there's going to be a lot of foresight, and again, this is going to be one of those situations where the good old boys that are tied in the political networks are going to get first dibs at this, and I think it's going to be a poor use. This could go. I could go either way on this. It could be a good thing. It could be a disaster in the making. Hopefully, Scott Turner, you know, is truly a man of God and follows God's will for him, and it will turn out to serve the people in the best way.
I'm 100% sure there will be, again, 10% corruption, so to speak.
That just irks me.
Guys that are pat their pockets and they should be, but I think in the onset, the idea of this, I think it's a good one. Right now, costs are insane for affordable housing, for people to actually afford a place to live right now.
Yeah, but the cost is not, the primary cost is not the land.
No,
It's the
but
building materials.
and it's the red tape in the middle.
Yes.
Roughly a third of the building costs goes to land and then the red tape in the middle.
Yes.
So they got to unlock that if they can. That's a third of the cost. Boom.
So if we,
Get that axe right there, Chris.
oh yeah, if we get, do this to some of the government regulation, right? If we get some of the government regulation out of here, you know, we'll take a third of the price down, a third of the cost down on building new homes.
By the way, guys, that axe, it's not just a silly prop. It's actually become semi-famous on the internet. If you haven't seen it yet, it's because you haven't seen the tax axe. If you're thinking that you're overpaying the IRS too much right now, if you're giving them too much, Chris and I started doing trainings. We've done 2 of them now. We've got another one this week on Thursday on how we got a $53,000 tax refund check without having to sign personal guarantees and things like that. This is Chris's refund check I'm holding up right now on the other screen. And that axe is called the tax axe. So yes, I know it looks like a silly prop, but it's actually a real thing. It's become a little bit of a sensation on the internet. So if you want to attend that with us, CJ, if you could help me drop that link in the chat, I'd appreciate it. You guys can come to that. If you've already been to it, then you don't need to come again. But if you haven't been to the tax workshop that Chris and I put on, then join us. If you're looking for that link on social media, just put the word tax in the comments, TAX, and our team will send it over to you. We'll get you a private message on it.
No, put axe, AXE.
You want the axe.
Oh yeah.
All right, Chris, I'm changing gears on us.
Yep.
So you called this 3 weeks ago. You said Trump was putting pressure on Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. You said he's not going to budge.
Nope.
The rest of the world is budging. The rest of the
Yep.
world is taking down their rates, but Jerome Powell is not budging.
Well, because Trump is trying to bully him. Is Trump right? 100%. I agree with Trump's right. Did you deliver that message? Like there's some people you can't go in there and swing your machismo around and expect them to cave. This is a guy that's going to sit back and just laugh at you, right? And unfortunately, what happens? The American public suffers as a result of egos clashing. You got to remember, and people don't realize this. He is not a government employee. He does not answer to the president in any way, shape, or form. You got to go there and schmooze this guy. You don't go in there and tell him what to do inside of his fiefdom. This is a guy that is self-made, right? He's well-educated. He's intelligent, but he's egotistical. So Trump went at this wrong. Do I agree that we need to make a move? 100%. Unfortunately, the egos collided. And now here we are, stuck in an impasse.
When we were sitting at dinner 2 weeks ago, and your friend Elliot,
Yeah.
who was sitting next to me, he said the same thing as you. He's like, Jerome's not going to move. He's like, when I used to work for Jerome, and he told me the whole story
Yeah.
about how Jerome's principles are, and he used to work for him when Jerome was on Wall Street. And so I think that all these predictions are playing out right now, even though the rest of the world is cutting.
Yeah.
The United States is holding strong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and let me ask you this. What's the out? Like, at what point Trump would literally have to go and publicly apologize and publicly almost beg this guy, right? And that's not going to happen.
well,
So what happens?
there's only two outs. Here's the two outs. You guys are hearing it here first. Okay. One, unemployment starts to rocket up.
Yep.
And that's a real possibility. I
Yep.
don't want to forecast doom and gloom, but it's a possibility. If unemployment starts to rocket up, he'll be forced to change his position. The second is that inflation truly dies. Remember his target 2%? If it starts to drop below that, then he can say, oh, we accomplished our mission. Now we can lower
Yeah, and then he
rates.
can pound his chest, say, I was right. And now, because I was right and we had the result that we wanted, here you go.
Yeah.
That's you know what? I'm going to even negate the unemployment. I think that he will stick his chest out even to the unemployment. And the only thing that's going to trigger a change is a Trump apology or some kind of, schmoozy way out of this. Or if we hit the 2%, and I don't see either one happening anytime soon.
No. So he's going to pause. Expect more pausing happening.
Mm.
Okay, let's go over to a government employee, an appointed one. This is Treasury Secretary Bessent. And he's talking right now a lot about potential slowdown. They don't want to use the word recession, but I want you to hear his words right here, what he describes this as. Oh, if it'll allow, there we go.
Not at all. It doesn't have to be, because it'll depend on how quickly the baton gets handed off. Our goal is to have a smooth transition. But I tell you, Sarah, the easy thing for us to have done would have been to come in and just keep this massive spending level going. And it's unsustainable. But could we have kept it going for a year, 2 years, maybe even 4? Maybe, but you're risking a financial calamity. So, we are trying to get this tax bill done. We are controlling expenses. And when we get the tax bill done, so if you can change the trajectory, up revenues, up economic growth, hold expenses flat, or do the unthinkable and cut expenses, then that's a pretty good trajectory.
So he's equating this slowdown period to kind of like a detox. And he basically goes on to say, look, the economy had all this money pumped into it. COVID money, stimulus, this, PPE loans, all this stuff was floating around for a long time. And now this new administration's coming in saying, we're done with that. We're cutting federal jobs. We're cutting government jobs. We're cutting these contracts. And so the economy is going to go through a withdrawal period, almost like a drug addict would go through if they were cut off. So is he right? And how do you feel about this?
Are you asking my opinion?
Yeah.
I 100% agree. So, just like a drug addict, they're going to feel terrible for a while, but at the other end, when they're off the drugs or off the government teat, once we're off the drugs, they're going to feel 100 times better, right? But what the problem is that right now we've conditioned the American people to be given stuff, right, instead of earning stuff. So as a result, there's going to be that transition period, and then let's face it, America is the greatest country in the world, and people who live here and that pursue the American dream succeed. If you honestly pursue the American dream, you'll succeed. And I think that will, with the drying up of all these government funds, capitalism will come back, ambition will come back, entrepreneurship will come back, and then we'll start to see the wheels turning. But again, we need cooperation from the government side too, or from the Fed side in order to really get this thing lit.
And that cooperation, well, the government is the one that initiating all of these cutbacks right now. So I think it's a good thing though.
I do.
I mean, temporary pain,
Yeah,
but long-term gain.
100%. Not only that, the change in thinking, get off the government teat, like support yourself, go out there and get a job. Don't wait for the government to do for you what you should be doing for yourself.
Yeah. Now, the next piece of news, you're not going to see this reported anywhere else. So those of you that are taking notes for any kind of investing that you do, pay attention to this segment. This is a credit union auto loan delinquency report.
Ugh.
And this kind of gives a little bit of a forecast. It's not like 100% prediction, this is what's going to happen next, but I'll tell you what happened. In 2007, I started following this. In 2008, it caught my attention. And when auto loan delinquencies hit their peak in 2008, then the rest of the economy got smacked right after that.
Yeah.
So people don't want to give up their car, but if they have to, they're going to give up their car before they give up their house. So what does that mean? Well, if you scroll through this whole report, basically it says that the delinquencies, they've now matched what they were in 2008. They matched. Now at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, we are there. And so what this is forecasting is that it's more than likely, if it follows the same pattern, now we're going to start to see houses come down because people start to walk away from some of their home loans. Some markets have peaked out, other markets haven't. We can't make a general blanket statement here, but we already know this. Multifamily went down 2 years ago. It hit bottom. It's on its way back up. Same thing happened during the whole last correction. Now what's happening is we're starting to see cars go down through bad loans and whatnot that have to be repossessed. Next thing that could happen is we could start to see some single family home foreclosures. This is crystal ball talk. We can't, say this is going to happen with certainty because who knows? The government might come out and say, you know what, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and stimulate. But right now, if it follows the same trend, this is what we're looking at.
Okay, so I'm going to throw a wild card there to offer a perhaps slightly different perspective, right? I am holding on to the notion that I agree that this could be a tale for the financial future of the country. I 100% agree with you on that, except for this scenario. So 2-3 years ago, people were given money. They were getting unemployment. They were getting money from the government. They were sitting at home. Yeah. Savings were at an all-time high. They had all this cash. They weren't spending it to live. And now all of a sudden, somebody that would never dream of going out and get $1,000 car payment, looking at his, nearsighted, not long-sighted, looking at his finances and saying, oh my gosh, look at all this money I have in my checking account. I can afford that $1,000 car. Then life starts getting back to life, right? The money starts going away. The unemployment starts going away. You have to go back and get a job now because you decided to quit your job because it made more sense to sit at home. And now you're not earning the money or saving the money that you predicted that you had. And so the financial basis that you were in that led you to make the decision to purchase that car that you can't afford no longer exists. So it's not the economy as much as it's been the mentality. Right, the mentality of the American consumer, and let's face it, most people, if I can afford to make the monthly payment, I can own it. Not my mentality, but I can write that check every month. And so, let's face it, a lot of Americans are 3 weeks away from being homeless, right? 3 paychecks away from being homeless. So now there's been this shift. They don't have the money. They have the car payment. What are they going to do? Oh my gosh, that was a stupid decision. It's time to let the car go. That's what I'm praying has happened because you're absolutely correct. Under normal circumstances, with all of that influx into the general populace, I believe that this is a true tell of what's going to happen in the future. I am holding out hope that it's not the case here as a result of the things I just described.
Yeah, you could be right.
I want to be right.
Yeah. I don't think that we'll ever have, even if you were wrong and the economy goes through a real bumpy stretch, I don't think it's a 2008 scenario because we don't have the subprime lending crisis.
Correct.
So there's not a whole bunch of bad loans out there. There are people that have a ton of home equity. There are people that have interest rates in the 3s. Believe it or not, that's a real thing. We've taken over some multifamily properties that are in the 4s, 4.3 and a 4.1. So I don't think that we've got another 2008 brewing on our hands. I just think that some cities could see a little bit of a reset. Austin, Texas, as an example.
100%.
Even some parts of Southwest Florida that got a little bit too revved up during the whole pandemic and whatnot. But Austin, Texas, you have an exodus happening. So cities like that, I think that they'll see a bit of a reset.
I would love to see the demographics that are tied to those loans, because I'm almost going to bet, and this is just me being me, the demographics is going to be those kids that are 20, they're going to be about 26 years old right now, where they had just gotten out of college, they were making some money, and they got all this government money, and we're not mature enough to make adult decisions. And I'm hoping that demographic is the 25 to 27-year-old that are delinquent with those loans. That would make me feel significantly better. Unfortunately, we don't have that data.
We'll ask the credit unions, hey, who'd you make these bad loans to? Okay, one more note, and then I got to get you off, Chris, because
Yes.
we have investors to speak with. So this is a big report that just came out. Okay, NAHB published this report. It's fresh, hot off the press, the very end of last month. You guys can find it if you scour the internet for it. But they're basically saying that multifamily, this is the stabilization year. We went through that 2-year time period, that correction period that we talked about earlier. Interest rates went high, and it caused multifamily sellers to have to start dropping their prices. And now we're hitting that stabilization point. Chris, what's happening with the bad loans that multifamily operators took out, and why are they calling this the stabilization year? What do you think is going to forecast for the next year?
If I'm to really do some soul searching on this, it's very difficult for me to look outside of my experience and my knowledge. I try to be empathetic to situations, but the reality is this: I see these bad loans turning into great opportunities, right? So these guys made bad decisions. They're in these bad loans. People like us can come in, swoop in, and make it happen. This is going to be when they say the stabilization, I believe they're referring to taking those operators that had the 2%, 3% loans out of the market, right? So now we got the amateurs are gone. And now we're back to the real professionals that do this for a living, not just the people that are successful when it's easy to be successful. And I think that's what they're talking about with regards to stabilizing things.
Yeah, we bought one property end of last year that was literally
I love that story.
They paid 5.7. We bought it for 3.3. Why'd we get it for 3.3?
Wait, let me tell it my way. Okay, so these people bought this wonderful property in Memphis, Tennessee, called Barksdale, and I don't know if they came in upon an inheritance or whatever. Beautiful property, great look from the street, Class A property. They saw it and they bought this property, and understand that a bank loaned the money on this property. So that means it was cash flowing. The finances were great. Everything was wonderful. And then they watched 3 TikTok videos about how to become millionaires doing Airbnb, right? So they shut the property down as an operating property, got rid of everybody, spent a whole bunch of money to furnish it, right? Cash out of their pocket, cash. And then they fell flat on their faces. And because they were not able to generate income, now the bank comes back 2 years later and says, okay, it's time to refi your loan or to get us out of this situation. And the property could not stabilize it, could not carry itself with the amount of income because they failed. So now this beautiful property at $5 million, they come to us and say, help. So we go in there, give them enough to cover the loan and give them a few dollars to walk away. And then we pick this property up at the what do we get for 3.3? 3.3, right? So now all we have to do is go back and put tenants in it and put it the way it was supposed to be. And now it's a $5.3 million property again. It doesn't take rocket science, but it does take a professional to understand what the limitations of the market are and how to properly operate. And we didn't get our experience watching YouTube videos or TikTok videos. We got our experience by actually operating properties. So that's what's going to happen in this arena. All these operators that came in and thought they knew what they're doing, they're going to find out that they don't when they can't get those 2% loans anymore. Now they have to operate in an environment where they're getting 7, 8, 9% loans. Now all of a sudden it's not so easy to operate a property with profits, and you're still going to pay your monthly nut.
On that note, we literally just signed an LOI today.
Yay.
Another one. So if you want it to get in on the ground floor, if you want to get in with good operators, now is your chance to join the wait list. Team, if you could put that link there. Thank you, Sue. The link is there. If you want to be in the first to know about our new deals and you don't see the link because you're following us online, just put link in the comments, LINK, and our team will private message over to you. With that said, Chris, I'm going to close this out, but is there anything you want to say as we shut down?
Listen, guys, do yourself a favor. Start today so that you have a different tomorrow. If you're in a place in your life where you want something different for yourself tomorrow, you've got to start today. And even if you don't invest, associate, get involved with us, whatever you do, please, please, please do the due diligence on the people that you're getting involved with. Because I know that God has blessed me because I continue to do the next right thing with the talents that He's been provided to me. So please act in good conscience, be a good steward, go out there, be fruitful and multiply.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, guys.
See y'all
I'll
later. Thank you.
Bye.